On the 9th of September 2005, nearly 20 years ago now, Status Quo made an appearance on Ken Bruce on Radio 2, playing a live session of 5 songs at Maida Vale Studios. I recently caught up with Daniel Jordan, who was one of the lucky competition winners who got to see the band in action at this performance.
So, Maida Vale, I was fortunate enough to be at the Ken Bruce in session thing they done live. Very surreal, to describe it. I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, it was in the studio. You think you're going to walk in and see Francis Rossi, Rick Parfitt standing there with waistcoats and shirts and jeans. You know, the usual stage wear, you know, a rig of the stage.
Yeah.
And as we walked in, it was literally if you think of The Part Ain't Over Yet, where you see the footage where the band are kind of facing each other a little bit. I was where we were. It was a competition at Radio 2 ran for, I think it was 5 people, and a guest. And my cousin, who generally attend most gigs, well, I'm always with him at the gigs. He's as mad as fan as me. He entered the competition, said, "How do you fancy going to London?" And he managed to get down there. It was just an unusual environment. It was surreal. I think when you're there, it was a thing of you're there. It was only when the event was over, I was just like, bloody hell, I've just sat in the studio with Quo. And there's just little things that make me remember. There's just small things that you go, I remember that. So one was Rick Parfitt had his hair in a ponytail.
Right.
Bizarre, I know, but that makes you think strange. The band, I say, were all dressed in the normal clothing as such, no stage wear. I've obviously they've done Caroline, Party Ain't Over Yet, Belavista Man, whatever you want, and Rockin. For the Party Ain't Over Yet and Belavista Man, Rick put his white guitar away, which was a surprise. I think, what's he doing? And he would restart. Obviously, it was done. They weren't done continuously. It was like every so often they'd pop across to the studio and they'd belt out a track. But Rick, I've got one behind me here, the red guitar. Rick played as a Gibson SG Junior guitar. And if you listen to, obviously you can get the recordings to listen to the Ken Bruce session. You can actually tell he's not playing his white guitar. I think you can tell the difference in the sound. That was something that was quite surprising to see. Whether the tracks on the studio album were recorded with that guitar, I don't know. One thing that makes me always laugh is when you listen to the recording of that Ken Bruce session. I think it's on the BBC box set and it's all over the streaming platforms. When they do Rockin' All Over the World and they get to the crowd singing bit and you can hear a few little voices. I can say I'd maybe made a recording of Status Quo vocals. That's probably me shouting away in the background trying to sing along, which is quite fun. It was surreal. It really was a surreal day. I do remember after they'd done it, I seem to recall Francis and Rick were going up to Manchester to do some filler stuff for Coronation Street.
Yeah.
And I remember walking down this long corridor of just doorways of the Maida Vale Studios. But behind me was Rhino, Andrew and Matt. I don't know where everybody else was. I just seemed to be on my own in this corridor. And we walked in this doorway. And I remember it very well. It was like an orchestral space room. So we just walked in and we just kind of were like looking around going, this is impressive. And the security guard came in and said to us, excuse me, gentlemen, you shouldn't be in this room. And I just thought, that's us getting told off by security. And I said to the guy, do they know who you are? Do they know what band you're from? And we all just laughed and walked out. Yeah. I wish at the time, it was just after the London bombings. So security was very strict at the time. So there was no cameras allowed. You went in with just your clothing on because it was so strict at the time. So yeah, there's no real evidence of like the fun that was had on the day. It was only a couple of hours in the morning. It was weird seeing them play Caroline at 9 o'clock in the morning live. Very unusual. It was a long day, but it's a unique experience to seeing the band.
Of course, maybe 5 years later, they would have filmed it for the BBC.
Yeah,
Still in
exactly.
this period, radio sessions were still radio sessions.
Yeah, it's such a shame. At the time, I remember at the time on the website, there was a couple of photos put up that were taken, but I've searched the internet for them and they've just vanished. There's a couple of shots because where it was done, the band was kind of in a circle as such, facing each other, and the few of us that were in there were sitting on like a small little balcony that was kind of slightly head height. The studio was only small. It was like a little balcony, and I had the people that were there from Radio 2 Winners. I think there was 10 people. There was two, yeah, it would be 10 people. And I remember just sitting kind of above like kind of next to Francis, but slightly raised above him.
Yeah.
And he just kept looking up and smiling and grinning. I know he does. But it was just weird. Honestly, it's one of them things I always say I've been quite lucky at times with Quo to have met them quite a few times, and on personal level, met them all over the place, and that's one of the things that makes them so special, I think, as a band. And I'm quite fortunate that one of the things that stands out. If someone said to me now, what's one of your favourite things you've done with Status Quo or being gigs, just for the uniqueness of that day, that.
And the casualness of it all, from the dress to everything else that
Yeah.
you've mentioned there, will be because it is the era before cameras everywhere capturing content. So you did sort of see something that was a moment in time that, as you say, there's very little record of outside of those recordings.
Yeah, it's a shame, as you say, that there was nothing done at the time. But again, it was really quite funny because obviously Ken Bruce does Popmaster.
Yeah.
Or did do Popmaster. And obviously he's not in the studio. He's actually in, as it where they actually sit when they do the broadcast. It would be Broadcasting House. So the band are in Maida Vale, and Ken Bruce is actually over at Broadcasting House.
Yeah.
Somewhere. So all they're getting is a live feed of the actual radio show to the studio. And then when Ken kicks in, they're kind of cued to know that, right, Ken's going to talk now. So in between, like, them needing to be spoken to and interviewed, they were just kind of playing Popmaster and hanging around and eating sausage butties. And yeah, it was surreal, really. It's like seeing the band as them, not as the Status Quo, where a rock band, where, as people just associate them with like the waistcoat and shirts and stuff. Yeah. They're just normal. They're just like normal blokes off the street playing the songs.
Like you say, it was a memorable experience that you'll remember forever. Thank you once again to Daniel Jordan for sharing your story. The Ken Bruce session that we've just talked about is available on one of many releases of the Live at the BBC box set. You can also check it out on YouTube in audio form. Thanks once again for watching. Please do rate, comment, and subscribe for more Status Quo related discussion, reviews, and interviews. Take care. Bye-bye for now.